Hello guys, and welcome to another edition of the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast, another Darwin Day special, number 5 I believe, and I thought I'd just take you through the day I had yesterday. It was a very long day. I enjoyed it, but it did take a lot. I was absolutely shattered by the end of the day. Yesterday morning I woke up bright and early, made myself plenty of tea, and I got to work with releasing the interview with Tim Dawes, kind of promoting the SCIBAR event I had on later on that evening. It was a great interview, thank you, Tim. And I did that. It takes a while when you release an episode. You've got to release it, and you got to hit social media and spread it everywhere. And I had a few emails to write as well, so it was about 10:30 before I even got in the shower. So I got in the shower, got ready, and I walked off into town because I was going to go to the DARWIN toast, which was at 12 o'clock at the Bellstone in town. We were then going to go on a tour. All this was being led by John King. John King is he's our local expert in Darwin, and he did a beautiful job, a really, really good job. I really like that guy, so thank you to him. I got to explain actually to people that are listening to this show from America, and people that don't really know, but the Bellstone is situated in Morris Hall Courtyard. If you ever come to Shrewsbury and you've never been to see it, it's opposite the Market Hall, and it's in Morris Hall Courtyard. It's a little, looks like a little archway you walk through, and you can go and see that stone. So this stone is really important, and the reason why this stone is important is because it was explained to Darwin when he was a young child that this type of stone is usually found up in Scotland or up in Cumbria, and so it got to Darwin to thinking, well, what's it doing in Shrewsbury? How is it this huge stone end up here? And it's only when he went to university in Edinburgh that he found out that it was an ice glacier that moved from the north of the UK or England and Scotland all the way down into Shropshire, and when the ice glacier melted, that's when the stone was left there. And so this stone is really important because it starts Darwin thinking. It's almost a catalyst, and you can go and see the stone. You can go and touch it, and it's a great thing. So it was Darwin's birthday yesterday, so we did a toast, and the toast was held by John King, who's a great guy. And it was actually John who started the Darwin Festival in sorts back in 2003. He kind of realised that Shrewsbury as a town should be making more about the fact that Darwin was born in Shrewsbury, and I totally agree. And look what this Darwin Festival is today. It's well celebrated, and it's celebrated across the world as well in different places. So well done, John, for that. So after John had expertly explained about the Bellstone and where we were and what the occasion was, we started a tour. We were going to do a tour, and we started off. We walked down towards the quarry, and then we stopped at St Chad's Church. If you've never been to Shrewsbury, St Chad's Church is the one that's at the top by the park. Big round building with a big gold cross on it. You can't really miss it. A beautiful building. And it was explained that was where Darwin was baptised, even though his family were Unitarian. The reason why he was baptised is to give Charles more prospects with education when he was older, because you couldn't get into a university back then if you didn't have faith. So he was baptised to give him more options with education, which is a bit of a loophole, but a very clever one, which is cool. So we went from there. We walked round to the old market hall. John paused the tour and said, this isn't nothing to do about Darwin, and he explained the history of the old market hall, which is, it's a very old building that was used to trade cloth and wool, and it was a very important building because that was one of Shrewsbury's main trade back in the 1500s, so that was good. We got to talk about that. Then we moved round to the Unitarian Church. The Unitarian Church, I've spoken about the Unitarian Church, should I say, a bit mumbly there, and about how that was Darwin's church as a child. His family were Unitarian, but it was the Unitarian Church that gave Charles a license to question things, because that's kind of how they do things. They kind of encourage people to ask the questions and to wonder and to use their minds. That's because his family were all Unitarian. His grandparents, who were the Wedgwoods, you guys will know what Wedgwood is. It's the blue and white pottery that you can buy. You can buy plates and jugs and things with all the Wedgwood, beautiful Wedgwood patterns on them. And in honor of the Wedgwood family, if you go in the church and look up, the border around the outside of the ceiling's all blue and white, and that's in honor of them. And then with the I'm not going to tell you about everything about the tour because it's going to spoil it on John's behalf, but we did go through to many places throughout the town, and John expertly explained where all of these points and where they were significant to Charles's story, including the library. You can't miss the library. It's just up from the train station, and there's a giant statue of Charles Darwin, old Charles Darwin, sat outside the library. And back then, it was the school. It was Charles Darwin's school, and of course, it's where he learned, but it's also where he learned to question things. Because if he'd have followed the old educational system, where they learned a lot from the book, the good book, he probably wouldn't have been where he was today. So yes, it's significant. It's a beautiful place to go and visit as well. If you ever passing through, pop into the library and go and have a look upstairs. There's a great room up there with loads of really old carved graffiti on the windowsills. It's really quite cool to see. From the library, we moved around to the Darwin Gate. The Darwin Gate is amazing. I love it. I guess you could say it's like Marmite with some of the locals. Some people don't quite understand it. It's, if you've never been there, it's right in the middle of the town, and it's 3 pillars. There's the 3 pillars, and it looks like the outside of the pillars are like made with glass or crystal or something, And on top of the pillars, they've got like these iron metal sculptures that almost look like bat wings. There you go. Is the Batman influence in me? It looks like a bat. They look like bat wings, kind of curling inwards. Now, if you were to stand in the middle of this Darwin Gate and look around, you wouldn't kind of understand it. You wouldn't know what it was. It just looked like 3 random metal sculptures just there. And it's only when you cross the road over towards the British Heart Foundation charity shop, stand on that corner and look back at the sculpture, you kind of realise what it's supposed to be. I'm not going to spoil it. I encourage you all to do it because I lived in Shrewsbury for a while before I realised what it actually was. So if you don't realise what that is, the Darwin Gate, go and do it. Go and walk across the road carefully and look back at the sculpture and look at it. And the idea of that is to encourage perspective. Perspective is important in science, okay? It's only when you find all of the information you kind of understand the problem. And Darwin had these ideas about evolution that not everybody else believed in, but that was because he had the information that everybody else didn't. Everybody was so interested, or kind of encouraged to read the Bible and to follow the ways of the Lord, and it was kind of social convention then. But outside of that, there were facts that Darwin he looked at, he recorded, and he came to conclusions. And that is perspective. You don't realise what you're looking at until you know the facts. Brilliant. Then we moved around to, and we stopped at Quantum Leap. Now, I mentioned that the Darwin Gate is like Marmite. Well, the Quantum Leap, even more so. It's at the side of the River Severn. It's up across from the Welsh Bridge. If you're from Shrewsbury, you definitely know it. It's a giant rock sculpture. And it's made of separate rocks that are all kind of twisting and turning in it. Every single one is different, and each one is pointing at a different angle, and it almost looks like a bit or a slice or even a sprig, I guess, of DNA. I think anyway, and like I said, it's like Marmite. For the locals of Shrewsbury, some hate it, some love it. I quite like it. I think it's quite cool. But when you look at art, it can be whatever you want it to be. And that's because it's your own perspective. See how it all kind of links in? And that's a beautiful thing about art. I mean, if you don't like it, crack on, move on. You don't like it. But if you do like it, there you go. You got a token there, a memento to look at and to inspire you every single day. Well, thank you to John. He was a fantastic tour guide, so knowledgeable. I mean, this guy was telling some amazing stories. I don't want to spoil him because I've got him on recording, and it would be a shame to kind of release it on a podcast so that you don't ever feel like you want to go on one of his tours again, because you know it already. Heard it on Alex's podcast. But he's very knowledgeable, and I'd love to. I'll give him a card. I'd love to sit and chat with him one day. So after that, we kind of ended it at the Quantum Leap, and I thought, wow, take a walk through the quarry home, because I live just in Bellevue. I forgot how much of a mission it is to actually walk through the quarry from the Welsh Bridge. So, but I hadn't had any lunch by the time I got home. I was a bit fed up. But I really enjoyed the tour. I had some lunch, and then I wrote these notes that I'm reading from now. And I got on with the rest of my afternoon, and I was getting ready for the SCIBAR. Remember the SCIBAR that I mentioned yesterday? Whoa, SCIBAR. So the SCIBAR was a great event. I really enjoyed it. They didn't quite have the turnout that they expected. There wasn't as many people there as they wanted there to be, but there was still quite a reasonable crowd. There were students there that were studying the subject. There were older people there that were genuinely interested, and there was an odd-looking podcaster there that doesn't really... I'm not an intellect. I don't understand science, but I still enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I followed it all the way through. And I think that's the point. Okay, so this was 7:30 at the old post office, and it was done by Professor Mark Carver. Mark Carver is a renowned scientist that works in cancer treatment. He's worked all around the world, and he works with companies that create pharmaceuticals that battle cancer. And I think, at first, I think maybe Mark was a little bit nervous, maybe because it wasn't such a big turnout. I guess when there's less people to talk to, it can be a bit more daunting, But he gave a great chat. He'd just done a lecture at the University Centre Shrewsbury about biotechnology and the industry. So he's probably a bit tired as well. But he did a really, really good job. It was a lecture that was worded in a way that even dumb guys like me could understand. And the topic was cancer. Are we winning? So he started on his lecture, and we were all kind of listening to him, and he was encouraging us to answer questions. But at first, nobody was really seemed to want to put their hands up and answer questions. It's only, and this is the best thing about SCIBAR is, okay, science in a bar. We're all sat there drinking beer, or I was, and most of the people were as well, having a pint, whilst enjoying this. And it's only when people started drinking more beers, they kind of get more Dutch courage, and they started raising their hands and asking questions. I know that was my case anyway. And yeah, he explains all the problems that they have and they face with creating new drugs, how the expenses work and why they're so expensive. He explains that yes, there are less incidences with males with lung cancer, I guess, because a lot of people are choosing to vape rather than smoke, or just quit smoking altogether, go to the gym instead. I don't know. But there are more people, so there are less cases of certain cancers, but because there's more people getting cancer. It's on the rise, it's on the rise, it's on the rise. So they're winning in some respects, but the rise in population is making it difficult. And as well, the expenses, you're saying that to create a successful cancer drug, it costs around $3.2 or $3 billion to make, and once you do that, you've got to get your money back. So that's why a lot of cancer drugs can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a very cruel system. I mean, cancer's cruel in itself, and I was a bit worried at first because it's quite a grueling subject, isn't it? Cancer, but it was actually a really interesting conversation. Lecture, and the fact that we all got to put our hands up and kind of interact with it was really good, especially when you'd had a pint of beer. It made it a lot easier. The old post office has got a really great space up there in the loft. I'd never been there before, and it's perfect for what we were using it for. I would encourage people to go and buy when you go to a SCIBAR. There is another one on Thursday. I really would encourage people to go there. They're really insightful. But what I would encourage people to do is to buy 2 pints. Okay, don't just buy a pint, because the lecture is about an hour long. And Tim, who I spoke to on yesterday's podcast, he gets up and he introduces Professor Carver, and he encourages people to go back to the bar and grab yourself a drink. That's what this is for. It's meant to be a relaxed environment. But what I gotta say is, the loft is a great space in the post office, but to go and get a pint, you have to kind of go downstairs, across the courtyard, back into the pub, buy your beer, come back through the courtyard, back up the stairs and back into the loft, and you don't want to miss any of the lecture, So by the time I'd finished my pint, I was kind of like, oh, I could do with another pint. Yeah, but I didn't want to miss any of the lecture. So buy 2 pints if you're going to go. I had this guy next to me, this Northern Irish guy. He's quite funny. He had this awkward situation. When you go to like the cinema or a place where you got to be quiet and you have like really noisy food to eat. It was almost like a Monty Python sketch, or it was really funny. He kind of pulled out this bag of the shrimp crisps you can buy at the pub. And whilst Professor Carver was trying to do his lecture, he's quite a quiet guy. He's not got a microphone. You could hear the rustling of the bag of crisps open. And then this guy sat next to me. He's kind of slowly trying to chew these shrimp crisps as quietly as he can. And then he finished the crisps, and I was like, oh, good. That's great. I felt awkward for him, so I thought that's good, and I'm glad that's over for him. And then he slowly pulls out another bag of salt and vinegar crisps and opens them and starts eating them too. It was quite funny. It was... I'm trying to enjoy the cancer lecture, but that guy was quite funny. He kept making some great remarks. Professor Carver was saying that one of the key things that they keep saying with the prevention of cancer is to not eat as much bacon, or to eat no bacon. And this guy, the shrimp crisp guy next to me, was like, it's not that you live longer, it's just that it feels longer when you don't eat bacon. I thought, yes, because when Professor Carver was talking about, don't eat bacon, I shouted, never! I love my bacon. Professor Carver gave a great lecture. It's really hard to take a subject like this and kind of dumb it down for people. Yes, there were students in the room, and there was a Norwegian guy that was across from me. He seemed to be following it. He was an older guy, and he was enjoying it. But I turned up there not knowing what I was going to get into, but I followed the whole thing. I followed it, and I really enjoyed it, and I had questions to ask. I put my hand up and I asked about the legalization of cannabis in Canada and America, and what effects he thinks is going to have on the cancer figures, and if he was interested. Of course I was going to ask a question like that. It's in my nature. Okay, I'm really interested, but of course I had to lower the tone. But yeah, thank you to Mark for that brilliant lecture. Thank you to Tim for bringing that. There is another one on Thursday. So on Thursday, you've got, tomorrow, should I say, you've got the emergence of biochemistry-based personalized medicine, and that's by Professor Ian Wilson. And then, same as what Mark did, he's going to go to the old post office at 7:30, do a sidebar about falling in love with your biome. And of course, that's on Valentine's Day, the 14th. So yeah, falling in love with your biome. So why not, everything on Valentine's cliche anyway. We always buy like a teddy bear and a card and do the same old things on Valentine's Day for your loved ones. Why not take them to a SCIBAR lecture on the biome, which is all the gooey stuff that keeps us going and keeps us alive? I think it sounds like quite a fun evening. I'm going to go there. I'm going to have a pint and watch that. So yes, yesterday was a really busy day, and it did kind of take its toll on me. I was really tired by the time I got home from the SCIBAR, but it also inspired me. I've learned quite a lot, and it's all been for free, bar the pint. Oh no, the pint was free as well because Tim bought me a pint. Thanks for that, Tim. But it was a great event, and these events are free, and you can go to them. I'm encouraging people to go out there and get involved. Bring your young ones, maybe not to the SCIBAR, but to some. I mean, on Friday there's a great event at the Hive. It's called Fuzzy Beats, and it's a musical class for children. I'm going to take my little boy to that. I'm going to be going there. It's 10:30 at the Hive, called Fuzzy Beats. And then at the Alb, you heard me mention that with James's show at the Alb. at 6:30, you've got the evolution of alcohol production. I'll be going to that too. I mean, I'm really excited about that one. It's really interesting, I think, because things have changed, haven't they? With drinking, and I want to understand why. I mean, when I was younger, it was pretty much the same back then. We'd all go around town and we get trashed, and I want to know what's happened. There's been a catalyst somewhere, hasn't there? Something snapped, and it's created this crazy Saturday night phenomenon we got every week in Shrewsbury town. In most towns that have got quite a few pubs. I mean, like I said before in previous podcasts, I grew up in Wrexham. Wrexham's very much a drinking town. It's something that I'm very much used to. But what happened between a few guys having a few pints down the pub to Party Central, I'm really excited. And apparently there's free alcohol too. So that's a winner for me. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this little snippet of a show. Just explaining my day yesterday. I was going to do a podcast for the tour and a podcast for the SCIBAR and go into more detail. But I thought, why not just tell you about my day instead, because that's what this thing is for. You can choose to make a day of this. You can choose. There is so much going on that you can make a day of going to different events. I know there were people at the lecture at Professor Carver's lecture at UCS that were at the SCIBAR as well, so they'd chosen to have a day of learning and possibly having a few pints later and doing a bit more easier learning. But you can also just choose to do the odd events. It's up to you, but it's all for free. It's a good cause, and get out there and support your town and what makes this town great. And one of those great things is obviously Charles Darwin. How many other towns can say they've had as influential guy as Charles Darwin be part of their heritage? Guys, hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'll probably be about tomorrow, and hope you're enjoying the Darwin Festival. And here's to Wednesday and getting through the rest of the week. Peace out, guys.